also in F1, many drivers like Max are doing so.
And do you find it interesting to go from the virtual to the real? Is there crossover that you can, does it help train you on the different circuits of the blancpain GT calendar?
I mean, I'm drawing quite a lot in the real life. I'm doing like 25 races per year, so I mean, it's more like to get used to the track rather than actually driving. And for the engineer, if the sim is well made, they can also help with the car setup, because sometimes they send me the setup and I can give some advice for the race. But for sure, it's helpful. And I mean, it's like if you do something at home and you can still train a bit, you know, the braking, the track. So I mean, it's for sure like always helpful if you can do something that you love also at home.
I have to ask the important question. Obviously, you're a Mercedes driver, but yesterday you chose to drive the Lexus. Racing driver throughout, is this the fastest car to have?
Well, I don't know. They just told me take the Lexus because it's the quickest, so I took the Lexus. But
it looks very good. We're just looking at the front of the race now, and obviously Lorito putting Garcia under a lot of pressure. The Lamborghini seems tricky to drive. We've seen all of the Lamborghini drivers avoiding the curbs, whereas you can seem to absolutely monster them in the Lexus.
Yeah, they told me the Lambo is a bit slower on slow corner. They struggle on slow corner, so
it certainly seems to lose out in the final sector compared to the other cars.
It would have been great to have seen you. Obviously, couldn't make it for the race. Do you think you stood a chance to get a good result here today?
I mean, my target was to be, top 7, something like this. I think the top 3 they were a bit quicker. Camus is really quick, but also the second and the third are really quick. So I think those 3 was a bit difficult, but from P4, P5, P6 they were all close. So I mean, I think I was able to be in this position.
And watching the racing that we've had so far, and obviously the race that you drove yesterday, what do you think of the level of competition of our esport drivers? We've seen some great action so far.
I mean, I know a few of them, and I know they are quite strong. I think it's always a compromise because they can spend all day, you know, driving, and in real car maybe you have only like 1 hour for practice and you have the race, so it's a bit different. But for sure, like if they after all this lap they can be that quick, for sure, like they have some potential. It's not always easy then to go into real car because there is many stuff, but I think the level it's high and it's getting higher every year because the e-sport is getting bigger and bigger.
And for this race, we've got Garcia actually has now dropped 6/10 behind Lorito at the front of the field. So it's a Lexus via Lamborghini. Who's your money on for the top 3? Or who's your money? Let's make it easier. Who's your money on for race winner?
I think Amos. I mean, it's also yesterday we saw he had a good pace, but also the guy in P3 looks quick. But it's always difficult to pass a car with your same brand because, like, also in real life, if you want to pass, for example, me an Audi, it's easier because I can use my strengths and they have like some like weakness. If I have to pass like someone with the same car, is difficult because they have the same weak, the same strength, so it's not so easy. So
I have one final question, and it's a really boring technical one here. We've seen that cars really have to be within about 3 tenths coming out of turn 6 and 7 onto Mistral, really to have a good chance of a safe overtake into Senior. Does that feel sort of equivalent to the real world?
At least with the Mercedes, we will never pass someone on the straight because the BOP is quite tough for us on the straight. But I mean, it's a bit risky to pass. In fact, when I do some overtake, it's always under braking quite to the limit. But if you have a good BOP on the straight, for sure you can pass. Like clearly, we see this morning the Bentley did 29.4 in sector 2. We're doing 30.0.
So they were very fast yesterday and this morning.
It's 6 tenths in sector 2, so it means in 1 second maybe they can pass. But it's a lot about tire degradation, track limits. Now there is these big curves that can damage your engine, like it did to our car. In fact, we start from the pit lane, but the 6-hour race, many stuff can happen through Corsiello strategy. There is the jockey you can use. I mean, it's not so easy as it looks like from outside.
It's probably fair to say that you've had a bit of a tough season so far. Do you think you can still turn it around? Do you think the BOP and everything else will allow you to be competitive?
I mean, the blancpain season, I only finished the race one in Bremsach. The rest, I didn't finish, but it's looked quite well for the Intercontinental GT in the SRO Championship, and we did third in Batur, second in Laguna, so it's up to Spa 10. I mean, the 24-hour in Spa is the huge event, and it can turn your season. Also, if you do every race last, let's say, when you win Spa, you had a good season. So we'll be up to Spa. We'll see where we are.
Well, thank you very much for joining us, Raffaele. Have a good race this afternoon, and we will all be rooting for you.
Best of luck, mate. Thank you very much. Cheers. Thank you. So there we go. There's a little our professional opinion thrown into the esports GT series here at Paul Ricard. Always great to hear from real-world drivers and the correlation between real and virtual, isn't it, Chris?
We should probably move on quickly to talk about what's gone on at the front of the race during that.
Oh, hello.
Right. While we were talking, both Lorito and Teniza got past Garcia. As we saw in previous races, Lamborghini starting strong but then starting to fade. But Teniza is now starting to put Lorito under pressure.
And that's a good performance, actually, for Teniza to keep her in P2 and be closing that gap further and further down for the race victory. And Garcia, fantastic qualifying effort, but as you say, now P3, got a bit of work to do if he wants to stay in touch with the cars in front. But fortunately for him, he's got a 3.5 second gap over Aurelio Male in fourth, and that's the gap that's going to be important to him, because the podium is what you need to qualify.
3.5 seconds isn't a lot of time when you've got 25 minutes. In fact, if this was yesterday's race, we'd only be 5 minutes in and we'd be talking about how everything's to play for.
This